The summons. Ambassador Kalen Vross stood before the observation window of the Meridian's edge, watching the spiral arms of the Andromeda Galaxy paint streaks of purple and gold across the void. His reflection stared back, a man in his late 40s, gray threading through his dark hair, eyes carrying the weight of Earth's first true venture into galactic politics. "Sir, we're receiving the formal summons," said Lieutenant Marish Chin, her voice tight with barely concealed anxiety. She handed him a crystalline data tablet that pulsed with an ominous crimson light. Kalen read the message, his jaw tightening with each line. The Galactic Prosperity Council demanded Earth's immediate presence to answer charges of aggressive expansion, resource hoarding, and dangerous technological proliferation. The hearing would take place in 3 cycles, roughly 72 hours by Earth's reckoning. "They're moving faster than we anticipated," Kalen murmured. "Do you think they know about Project Heimdall?" Chen asked, glancing nervously at the sealed compartment in Kalen's quarters where classified data chips lay hidden. "If they knew, we'd already be dead." Kalen set down the tablet and moved to his desk, pulling up holographic displays of the Council's 17-member species. "They suspect. That's different." The Galactic Prosperity Council had ruled the outer Perseus arm for nearly 12,000 years, a confederation of ancient civilizations that had achieved faster-than-light travel when humanity's ancestors were still painting caves. Earth had been discovered only 15 years ago, a shocking revelation that sent ripples through human civilization. First contact had been condescending. The Vrexel, insectoid beings with crystalline exoskeletons, had treated humanity like curious children. The Thorian Empire, reptilian warmongers with 4 arms and faces like armored dragons, had immediately categorized Earth as a probationary species, worthy of observation but not respect. The Luminari, beings of pure energy contained in Baroque mechanical shells, had been more diplomatic but no less dismissive. Only the Quellan, amphibious scholars with skin that shifted through the color spectrum, had shown genuine interest in human culture. Their representative, Scholar Thendara, had warned Kalen privately, "The Council fears what it cannot control. Your species advances too quickly. It makes them nervous." Now that nervousness had crystallized into action. Kalen pulled up a star chart showing Earth's expansion over the past decade. Humanity had established colonies on 17 worlds, all of them previously unclaimed rocks in the vast emptiness between established empires. They'd built trade stations, mining operations, and research outposts. Every action had been legal under the Council's own protocols. But legal didn't mean popular. "They've ruled unopposed for millennia," Kalen said, gesturing to the holographic display. "Then we arrive, a species that went from splitting atoms to folding space in less than 2 centuries. We're not playing by their timeline." Chin stepped closer, studying the data. "What's your strategy for the hearing?" "The truth." Kalen smiled grimly. With a few carefully placed omissions. The Meridian's edge jumped to hyperspace, its quantum drives bending reality around the ship's hull. Through the swirling chaos of faster-than-light travel, Kalen could see other vessels, the massive bioships of the Quellan, the geometric war platforms of the Thorian Empire, the living crystal lattices of the Vrexel fleet. Everyone was converging on Axis Prime, the Council's seat of power. Kalen spent the journey preparing. He reviewed Earth's legal position, studied the Council's charter, and memorized every precedent that might prove useful. But more importantly, he studied the Council members themselves, their histories, their conflicts, their carefully hidden resentments. The Thorian Empire and the Vrexel Collective had fought 3 wars in the past 4,000 years. The Luminari viewed the Quellan as intellectual inferiors. The Hask Federation, cybernetic beings who'd replaced 90% of their original biology, were barely tolerated by the organic purists who dominated the Council. Fractures. Everywhere fractures. "Sir," Chin interrupted his thoughts. "We're approaching Axis Prime." Kalen moved to the observation window and felt his breath catch despite himself. Axis Prime was impossible, a Dyson ring encircling a neutron star, its inner surface covered in cities that gleamed like jewels. Hundreds of thousands of ships orbited the megastructure, from tiny shuttles to warships that could glass planets. At the ring's exact center, suspended by gravitational manipulation, floated the Council chamber itself, a sphere of transparent diamond 3 kilometers in diameter. Inside that sphere, humanity's fate would be decided. "Begin docking procedures," Kalen ordered. "And Chin? Activate the dead man switch on Project Heimdall. If this goes wrong, Earth needs to know everything." "Understood, sir." As the Meridian's edge descended toward Axis Prime, Kalen Vross straightened his uniform and prepared for war, the kind fought with words but no less deadly for it. The chamber. The council chamber's interior defied rational architecture. Gravity shifted based on species requirements. The Quellan representatives floated in spheres of water suspended in mid-air, while the Thorians stood on platforms angled perpendicular to Kalen's own orientation. The Luminari existed as columns of light, and the Vrexel clung to surfaces that seemed to exist in dimensions Kalen's eyes couldn't quite process. At the chamber's heart, 17 thrones arranged in a circle, each designed for its occupant species. And in the center, a single platform for the accused. Kalen walked that platform alone, his footsteps echoing despite the chamber's size making such sounds impossible. Lieutenant Chin remained in the observation gallery, along with representatives from 100 other species who'd come to witness humanity's judgment. Ambassador Kalen Vross of Earth, boomed the voice of High Arbiter Jathan, a Thorian whose scales gleamed like polished obsidian. You stand before the Galactic Prosperity Council to answer grave charges. How do you plead? I request clarification of the charges, Kalen replied calmly. Earth has violated no council law. A ripple of agitation passed through the assembled representatives. The Vrexel delegate, Overseer Klixthar, leaned forward, compound eyes gleaming. Your species has established colonies on 17 worlds in just 10 cycles. You've militarized your expansion with armed stations and patrol fleets. You've refused to share your quantum drive technology with the Council's research concordat. These actions constitute aggressive expansion and dangerous hoarding of potentially destabilizing technology. Kalen nodded slowly. I see. Let me address each point. He activated his data tablet, projecting holographic evidence into the chamber. First, regarding colonization. Article 7 of the Council Charter explicitly permits any member species to claim and develop uninhabited worlds in unclaimed space. Every single human colony exists on previously unclaimed celestial bodies. I have the survey records to prove it. The evidence materialized: star charts, geological surveys, temporal stamps proving each world had been thoroughly scanned for existing claims before human settlement began. Second, Kalen continued, regarding militarization. Article 12 requires all member species to provide adequate protection for their citizens against piracy and external threats. Our stations are armed defensively, well within the tonnage limits specified in the Charter. In fact, he smiled slightly. They're actually underarmed compared to Thorian border stations by approximately 40%. Jathan's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. Third, regarding technology sharing. Article 19 states that species are required to share only technologies deemed essential for mutual prosperity and explicitly requested through formal channels. The Council has never formally requested access to our quantum drives. And given that 6 member species possess equivalent or superior FTL technology, I fail to see how our drives are essential for mutual prosperity. Silence filled the chamber. Kalen could feel the attention of billions watching through holographic feeds across the galaxy. Then Scholar Thindara's colors shifted to diplomatic blue. Ambassador Vross, perhaps the Council's concerns stem not from legal violations but from the pace of your expansion. Humanity achieved interstellar civilization in a fraction of the time required by other species. This rapid advancement is unprecedented and, some might argue, unsustainable. Or threatening, Kalen said quietly. Let's be honest, Scholar. The Council doesn't fear our expansion is unsustainable. It fears we might sustain it too well. Gasps echoed through the chamber. No one spoke to the Council so directly. You overstep, human, hissed Overseer Klixthar. We have maintained galactic peace for 12,000 years. We know what threatens that peace. Do you? Kalen walked slowly around the central platform, meeting the eyes, or optical sensors, of each Council member. Because from where I stand, the greatest threat to galactic peace is stagnation. When was the last time any of you expanded your territories? Developed truly revolutionary technology? When was the last time anything changed? The Luminari representative, Radiant Executor Solven, pulsed with amber light. Stability is not stagnation, Ambassador. It is wisdom. It's also convenient, Kalen countered. Convenient for those who already control the best worlds, the richest resources, the most powerful technologies. The Council's prosperity seems to flow very consistently in one direction, toward those already prosperous. This is outrageous. Jathan rose from his throne, towering 4 meters tall. We granted your species membership as a courtesy. We could have declared Earth a protectorate, subject to our direct governance. Instead, we offered partnership and you respond with accusations. Kalen stopped walking. His voice, when he spoke, carried across the vast chamber with perfect clarity. You granted us membership because you feared what would happen if you didn't. Because you knew that if you tried to subjugate Earth, we'd resist. And you weren't sure you'd win. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted in a dozen languages, their translation devices creating a cacophony of outrage. Only Scholar Thendara remained calm, colors shifting to thoughtful purple. High Arbiter Jathan slammed his 4 fists against his throne's armrests. Silence. The chamber obeyed. Ambassador Vross, you test our patience dangerously. Perhaps a demonstration of consequences is required. Kalen's heart raced, but his expression remained neutral. What did you have in mind? The demonstration. Jathan's scaled lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. The Thorian Empire maintains a testing range at the outer edge of this system. We shall demonstrate the gap in military capabilities between your species and the Council's enforcers. Perhaps witnessing our strength will encourage more cooperative behavior. A weapons demonstration, Kalen said flatly. How subtle. Consider it educational. Overseer Thar clicked, mandibles chittering with amusement. Your ships are impressive for a young species ambassador. But against true military power? They are toys. The Council chamber's central platform shifted, transforming into a holographic display showing the outer system. Kalen watched as 3 Thorian dreadnoughts positioned themselves around a massive asteroid, a chunk of iron and nickel roughly the size of Earth's moon. This asteroid has been designated Target Omega, Jathan announced. Its composition and mass are similar to a fortified military installation. Our dreadnoughts will demonstrate standard siege protocols. The vessels were magnificent in a brutal way, each stretched 5 kilometers long, their hulls covered in interlocking armor plates that could regenerate under fire. Plasma cannons bristled from every surface, and their main weapons, gravity lances capable of crushing matter at the atomic level, glowed with building energy. Fire, Jathan commanded. The asteroid ceased to exist. Not slowly, not dramatically, simply ceased. One moment it was there, a mountain of metal and stone. The next, it was an expanding cloud of superheated particles. The 3 dreadnoughts hadn't even used their main weapons, just secondary batteries. The observation gallery fell silent. Kalen could feel Chen's anxiety from across the chamber. Impressive, Kalen said calmly. How long did it take to build those dreadnoughts? 2 centuries each? 3? 187 years for the flagship, Jathan said proudly. It is a masterwork of Thorian engineering. And how many such vessels does the Council command? The Thorian Empire alone maintains a fleet of 63 dreadnoughts, Jathan rumbled. The Council's combined military assets number in the thousands of capital ships. Your entire fleet consists of, what? 40 vessels. 42 as of last week, Kalen corrected. We commissioned 2 new cruisers. Laughter rippled through the chamber, not cruel but genuinely amused. To them, humanity was a child playing at war. Scholar Thendara's colors shifted to concerned orange. Ambassador, perhaps you see now why the Council urges caution. Our strength is not meant as a threat but as protection. Under our guidance, humanity could develop safely, without provoking conflicts you cannot win. That's very generous, Kalen said. But I have a question. Would the Council permit Earth to conduct its own demonstration? The laughter died. Jathan leaned forward. What are you proposing? A simple test. You've shown us what 12,000 years of military development can accomplish. I'd like to show you what humanity can do with 15 years. Overseer Thar's antennae twitched. You have nothing that could match. Then you have nothing to fear from a demonstration, Kalen interrupted smoothly. Unless the Council is concerned about what Earth might reveal? The trap was elegant. Refusing would show fear, suggesting humanity possessed something genuinely dangerous. Accepting would give Kalen exactly what he wanted. A platform to shift the narrative. Radiant Executor Solven pulsed with calculating light. What would this demonstration entail? We have a single vessel in this system, the Meridian's Edge, my diplomatic transport. It's not even a military ship, just a lightly armed courier. Let it attempt the same test your dreadnoughts just performed. More laughter, this time openly derisive. The Meridian's Edge was tiny compared to the Thorian dreadnoughts, barely 300 meters long, built for speed and diplomacy, not warfare. This is absurd, Jathan growled. Your ship couldn't dent an asteroid that size. Then what's the harm in letting us try? Kalen pressed. If we fail, it proves your point about humanity's limitations. If we succeed, Well, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? The council members exchanged glances, or whatever passed for glances among beings of light and crystalline insects. Kalen could see the calculation in their reactions. They couldn't refuse without appearing afraid of a harmless transport vessel. Very well, Jathan finally said. You may proceed with your demonstration. But understand, Ambassador, when your ship fails to even scratch a target, our dreadnoughts obliterated, this farce ends. Earth will accept council supervision or face consequences. Understood. Kalen bowed slightly. Lieutenant Shin, please transmit the authorization codes to the Meridian's edge. Activate Project Heimdall, Protocol Sigma 7. In the observation gallery, Chen's face went pale. She knew what those codes meant. Across the galaxy, on a classified research station hidden in a nebula near Sol, alarms began to sound. Scientists and engineers who'd spent a decade working in absolute secrecy looked up at their monitors. Project Heimdall was going active. And the galaxy was about to learn why humanity had really been so quiet for the past 15 years. The Meridian's edge began moving toward a new target asteroid, and Kalen Vross allowed himself the smallest of smiles. The revelation. The target asteroid drifted in the void, another massive chunk of rock and metal, hastily positioned by Thorian tugs. It was actually larger than the first target, a subtle insult suggesting humanity needed a bigger canvas for their inevitable failure. Kalen watched the Meridian's edge approach, his hands clasped behind his back to hide their trembling. 15 years of preparation, of hiding humanity's true capabilities, of playing the role of eager students learning from galactic elders, it all came down to the next few minutes. Ambassador, Scholar Thendara's voice was quiet, colors shifting to worried crimson. What have you done? What I had to, Kalen replied softly. What Earth had to. On the holographic display, the Meridian's edge came to a complete stop 3,000 kilometers from the asteroid. Its weapons ports remained closed. No visible energy buildup, no charging plasma batteries, no gravity well generators spinning to life. Is your ship malfunctioning? Overseer Clickstar chittered. It simply floats there, doing nothing. Patience, Kalen said. We do things a bit differently. What happened next took exactly 2.7 seconds, though to everyone watching, it seemed to occur both instantly and in slow motion. The asteroid didn't explode. It didn't shatter or vaporize or fragment. It folded. Space itself bent around the asteroid like paper creasing, and the massive object, billions of tons of matter, simply collapsed into a point no larger than a marble. Then that point vanished with a soft pulse of Cherenkov radiation, leaving absolutely nothing behind. Not debris. Not dust. Not even residual heat. Nothing. The council chamber filled with the sound of complete, stunned silence. What? Jathan's voice cracked. The mighty Thorian warlord actually stumbled backward. What was that? Kalen took a slow breath. That was a Class 3 Heimdall compression field. The asteroid wasn't destroyed, it was compressed into a quantum singularity and ejected into subspace. For all practical purposes, it no longer exists in our dimension. Impossible, whispered Radiant Executor Sol then. The energy requirements alone would require a star's output. Your ship is powered by a contained quantum vacuum fluctuation generator, Kalen finished. We developed it 8 years ago. Each generator produces approximately 10 to the 23rd watts of power. That's roughly equivalent to converting all the mass in a small moon directly into energy every second. The implications crashed over the council like a tidal wave. You've had weaponized quantum compression for 8 years? Overseer Clickstar's voice rose to a screech. And said nothing? We said plenty, Kalen corrected. We provided detailed reports on our technological development, as required by Article 23. We filed patents through the Galactic Trade Commission. We even published research papers in the luminary science journals. None of you bothered to read them. That wasn't entirely true. The papers had been carefully written to be technically accurate but utterly boring, buried in jargon and mathematical proofs that would numb the most dedicated researcher. But they had been published. Humanity had followed the letter of the law while concealing its spirit. Scholar Thendara's colors shifted rapidly between a dozen emotional states. How many ships have this capability? Currently? All 42 vessels in Earth's fleet. Kalen pulled up new data. Additionally, we've installed Heimdall emplacements on each of our 17 colonies and 4 permanent stations around Sol. Each installation can generate compression fields large enough to envelope a Thorian dreadnought. This is a declaration of war. Jathan roared, all 4 fists crashing down. You've militarized your entire species. No, Kalen said sharply. We've defended ourselves. There's a difference. You've destabilized 12,000 years of peace. I've destabilized 12,000 years of your peace. Your order. Your rules designed to keep newcomers weak while you remain strong. Kalen's voice echoed through the chamber. Did you know that in the Council's entire history, no species that joined after the founding has ever gained a seat? That every probationary species has remained probationary for at least 2,000 years? That's not governance, it's fossilization. The Hask Federation representative, Nexus Prime Vorthak, spoke for the first time, his cybernetic voice flat and emotionless. The human makes valid points. Our own species has waited 3,000 years for full membership. That is different, Overseer Clickstar snapped. Your people chose extensive cybernetic modification. You are barely organic. And there it is, Kalen said softly. The real reason the Council fears change. You're not protecting galactic peace, you're protecting your own supremacy. Organic supremacy, ancient supremacy, the supremacy of those who got here first. Radiant Executor Solven pulsed with agitated yellow light. Even if your accusations have merit, you've proven our concerns justified. You hit a weapon of devastating power. We hit a deterrent, Kalen interrupted. And we're not the only ones. He activated another data stream. The Hask Federation has developed nanoswarm technology capable of disassembling ships at the molecular level. The Quellan have perfected biological weapons that target specific genetic sequences. 3 probationary species have FTL drives that make yours look like steam engines. Everyone has secrets, Radiant Executor. We just proved ours work. The chamber erupted again, but this time the chaos felt different. Less righteous anger, more genuine fear. And Kalen Vross, standing alone on the central platform, finally understood the weight of what he'd done. The fracture. The council chamber descended into pandemonium. Representatives shouted across dimensional barriers, translation matrices overloading as accusations flew in 17 languages simultaneously. The carefully maintained facade of galactic unity shattered like glass. Order. High Arbiter Jathan bellowed, but his authority had cracked. For the first time in millennia, council members weren't listening to the Thorian Empire's commands. Nexus Prime Vorthak stood, servos whirring. The human has committed no crime. He has revealed that Earth possesses defensive capabilities. The Council Charter does not forbid this. It forbids deception. Overseer Clickstar screeched. Does it? Kalen interjected. Show me the article. I've read the Charter 17 times. There's no requirement to volunteer information about defensive capabilities. In fact, Article 15 specifically protects species' rights to maintain military confidentiality. Scholar Thendara rippled through a rainbow of conflicted colors. Ambassador Vross, you understand what you've done? The balance we've maintained was already broken, Kalen said, his voice softer now. Scholar, you warned me yourself. You said the Council fears what it cannot control. Well, they can't control humanity and now everyone knows it. But that's not the real revelation, is it? He turned to address the entire council. The real revelation is that you've never been as unified as you pretended. The Thorians and Vrexel hate each other. The Luminari despise the Quellan. The Hask are barely tolerated. And the probationary species? You've kept them weak deliberately, ensuring they'd never threaten your dominance. These are lies, Jathan growled, but his conviction wavered. Are they? Kalen gestured to the viewing screens showing Axis Prime's orbital space. Look at your fleets. Each species maintains separate military forces, separate chain of command, separate strategic objectives. The Council isn't a unified government, it's a cold war that hasn't gone hot yet. A new voice cut through the chaos, elderly, crackling with static. The human speaks truth. Every being in the chamber turned. From the shadows of the highest tier, a representative Kalen hadn't noticed spoke. The translation matrix identified them as Elder Witness Craven from the Ancestral Synod, one of the Council's founding species, so old they rarely participated in proceedings. Elder Witness, Jathan said carefully. With respect, this is a matter for. I was there, Craven interrupted, their form barely visible within a containment sphere. 12,000 years ago when the Council formed. We founded it not from wisdom but from exhaustion. The eternal wars had ravaged this arm of the galaxy. We created the Council to prevent extinction, not to ensure justice. The admission stunned everyone. Over millennia we forgot our purpose, Craven continued. We transformed from survivors seeking peace into gatekeepers hoarding power. We've rejected 43 species applications for full membership in the past 6,000 years. Not because they were unworthy but because we feared change. Elder, Radiant Executor Solven pulsed urgently, why speak of this now? Because this human has done what none of us had the courage to do. He has forced us to confront our own decay. Craven's sphere drifted closer to the central platform. Ambassador Vross, your demonstration was not an act of aggression. It was a mirror showing us what we've become. Kalen bowed respectfully. Elder Witness, humanity doesn't seek to overthrow the Council. We seek to join it as true equals. Equals? Overseer Clickstar's mandibles clacked. You've been spacefaring for 15 years. We've maintained civilizations for hundreds of thousands. And in those hundreds of thousands of years, what have you accomplished lately? Kalen challenged. When was your last major scientific breakthrough? Your last cultural revolution? Your last paradigm shift in thinking? The silence was damning. Humanity isn't special because we're better, Kalen continued. We're special because we're desperate. We know we're newcomers to a crowded galaxy. We know we're surrounded by species who could crush us. So we innovate, we adapt, we take risks you wouldn't dare take because you have too much to lose. He pulled up historical data, showing the Council's technological development over time. The curve was clear: explosive growth in the first few millennia, then a steady plateau for the past 8,000 years. You've achieved stability, Kalen said. But stability is death for a civilization. Entropy. Heat death. The universe doesn't reward standing still. Scholar Thendara's colors settled into contemplative blue. What would you have us do, Ambassador? Dissolve the Council? Plunge the galaxy back into chaos? No, Kalen said firmly. Reform it. Open full membership to probationary species. Establish term limits for Council seats. Create real accountability. Make the Council what it claims to be, a forum for galactic prosperity, not just galactic management. This is insanity, Jathan said, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. The established order is established, Kalen agreed. But it doesn't have to be eternal. Even stars die and are reborn. Why should civilizations be different? Nexus Prime Vorthak stood again. The Hask Federation supports Ambassador Vross's proposals. We formally move for a full review of Council membership protocols. The Quellan Collective seconds, Scholar Thendara added, colors brightening to hopeful green. The dam had broken. The gambit. The Council chamber transformed into something unprecedented, an actual debate. For the first time in recorded history, probationary species and founding members argued as something approaching peers. The hierarchy hadn't dissolved, but it had definitely cracked. High Arbiter Jathan watched the chaos with barely contained fury. His scaled hands gripped his throne's armrests hard enough to leave claw marks in the metal. The Thorian Empire had maintained dominance through strength and intimidation for millennia. Now, a single human had undermined that dominance with nothing but words and one carefully timed demonstration. Enough, Jathan commanded, his voice amplified to physically painful levels. The chamber fell silent. We have strayed far from the original purpose of this hearing. Ambassador Vross, you have admitted to concealing significant military capabilities from the Council. Regardless of the philosophical debates your revelation has sparked, that concealment represents a breach of trust. Does it? Kalen met the Thorian's gaze without flinching. Or does it represent exactly what the Council's own protocols allow? High Arbiter, I've reviewed every article, every amendment, every precedent. Earth has broken no laws. The spirit of the law is subjective, Kalen interrupted. And conveniently interpreted by whoever holds power. That's the problem, isn't it? You want to punish Earth not for breaking rules, but for refusing to remain weak. Overseer Clickstar leaned forward, compound eyes gleaming. Your arrogance blinds you, human. Yes, you have developed one impressive weapon. But the Council commands thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, resources beyond your comprehension. If you force confrontation, Earth loses. Maybe, Kalen acknowledged. But you lose too. That's what mutual assured destruction means. He activated a new holographic display, showing Earth's defensive network in detail. Our 42 ships aren't our only assets. We've positioned 17 quantum compression satellites in strategic locations throughout this sector. Each one can generate fields large enough to envelope entire fleets. They're autonomous, powered by quantum generators with 1,000-year operational lifespans, and programmed with deadman protocols. The implications settled over the council like a shroud. If anything happens to Earth, if our homeworld is attacked, if our colonies are threatened, if our government ceases to function, those satellites activate automatically. They'll target every major council installation within 500 light years. Your shipyards, your trade hubs, your capital worlds. You're bluffing, Radiant Executor Solven pulsed with alarmed orange light. Am I? Kalen's expression remained neutral. The satellites broadcast on encrypted channels every 72 hours. If they don't receive confirmation codes from Earth Command, they execute their programming. It's completely automated. Even I can't stop it once the countdown begins. Scholar Thendara's colors flashed to horrified crimson. That's madness. You've created a doomsday weapon. I've created a deterrent, Kalen corrected. The same deterrent every major power in this chamber already possesses. The Thorians have planet-killer missiles. The Luminari can trigger stars to go supernova. The Vrexel developed bioweapons that can sterilize entire worlds. Don't pretend moral superiority when your hands are equally bloody. Those weapons exist to maintain order. Jothan roared. And now ours exist to maintain our freedom, Kalen shot back. Welcome to equality, High Arbiter. It's uncomfortable when someone else has the same power you do, isn't it? Elder Witness Craven's ancient voice cut through the tension. The paradox of power? How familiar. Ambassador, you understand that what you've done may force the Council's hand? That we cannot appear weak before the entire galaxy? I understand, Kalen said quietly. But I'm also counting on something else, that you're not as unified as you pretend. That enough Council members are tired of Thorian dominance and Vrexel arrogance. That the probationary species want real representation. That even among the founding members, there are those who see the current system as broken. He turned slowly, addressing different sections of the chamber. The Hask Federation has already supported reform. The Quellan have seconded it. How many others are tired of the status quo but too afraid to speak up? How many of you see Earth's success not as a threat, but as an opportunity? Nexus Prime Vorthak stood again. The ambassador raises valid concerns. The Hask formally proposed a 6-month summit to review council governance structures. All species, including probationary members, would participate as equals in this review. Seconded, Scholar Thendara said immediately. Other voices joined, smaller species, probationary members who'd sat silent for centuries. The coalition Kalen had gambled on was forming before his eyes. But Jothan wasn't finished. This is treason against galactic order. The Thorian Empire will not. The Thorian Empire, interrupted Radiant Executor Solven, is one voice among 17. High Arbiter, we respect your military might, but the Luminari consciousness also supports review. The current system has perhaps grown stagnant. Jothan's face twisted with rage. You would side with humans over your fellow council founders? We side with logic, Solven pulsed. The human is correct, we have grown complacent. Fresh perspectives may prove valuable. The political earthquake Kalen had triggered was reorganizing galactic power structures in real time. But he also knew the most dangerous moment was now, when old powers felt cornered and might lash out despite the consequences. High Arbiter, Kalen said carefully, Earth doesn't want war. We want partnership. Real partnership. Jothan's 4 hands clenched into fists. The chamber held its breath. The laughter. For a long moment, High Arbiter Jothan said nothing. His massive form trembled with barely restrained fury, scales rippling with aggressive color patterns that made nearby species instinctively retreat. The fate of galactic civilization balanced on a knife's edge. Then he laughed. It started as a low rumble deep in his chest, building to a booming sound that echoed through the diamond chamber like thunder. Every being present froze in confusion. 12,000 years, Jothan finally said, his laughter subsiding into something darker. 12,000 years, and it takes an infant species to remind us what we've forgotten. He turned to the other council members. We've grown soft, comfortable. We created an empire of order and called it peace, when really we were just afraid of change. Overseer Clicksthar's antennae twitched nervously. High Arbiter, surely you're not suggesting. I'm suggesting the human beat us at our own game, Jothan interrupted. He studied our laws, found every loophole, exploited every weakness. He prepared for this confrontation while we dismissed his species as primitives. And now, he gestured to the divided chamber. Now he's turned half the council against us without firing a single shot. Kalen remained still, unsure if this was genuine respect or the prelude to something worse. Jathan descended from his throne, approaching the central platform. At his full height, he towered over Kalen by nearly 2 meters. Ambassador Vross, do you know why the Thorian Empire has dominated the Council for so long? Superior military strength, Kalen replied carefully. Wrong. We've dominated because we're warriors. We understand conflict. We know that the greatest victories come not from destroying your enemy, but from making them respect you. He extended one massive hand, a gesture of greeting among Thorians. And today, human, you've earned respect. Kalen stared at the offered hand, then grasped it firmly. Does this mean? It means the Thorian Empire will support a governance review, Jathan said. It means we'll debate these reforms as equals. But it also means something else. His grip tightened slightly. If you prove to be another empire-building species like the rest of us, hiding behind noble words while pursuing domination, the Thorians will be the first to oppose you. Are we clear? Crystal clear, High Arbiter. The handshake broke and Jathan turned to address the full council. I propose we adjourn this hearing. Ambassador Vross has violated no laws. He's merely shown us our own reflection and we don't like what we see. The charges are dismissed. The Luminari consciousness concurs, Radiant Executor's soul then pulsed. As does the Quellan Collective, Scholar Thendara added, colors bright with relief. One by one, council members agreed. Even Overseer Clickstar, though clearly furious, clicked his mandibles in reluctant acceptance. Elder Witness Craven drifted forward. Ambassador Vross, you have done something remarkable today. You've proven that courage and conviction can match ancient power. But remember, the truly difficult work begins now. Reform is easy to demand, hard to implement. Can humanity maintain its principles when you inevitably gain the power you seek? I don't know, Kalen admitted honestly. We're still learning. Still growing. But at least now we'll have the chance to try. Then go in peace, Ambassador. The council has much to discuss. The chamber began to dissolve as representatives departed for private caucuses. But before Kalen could leave, Scholar Thendara approached, colors shifting to amused cyan. You planned this entire confrontation, the Quellan said. The demonstration, the revelations, even your provocations, all calculated to force exactly this outcome. Kalen allowed himself a small smile. Not all of it. I genuinely didn't expect the High Arbiter to laugh. Neither did anyone else. That's what makes it brilliant. Thendara's colors warmed. You understood something fundamental about galactic politics, that our order was maintained through mutual pretense. Once you shattered that pretense, once you proved a lesser species could match our capabilities, the entire structure had to change. Or collapse, Kalen added. It was a risk. A calculated one. Tell me truly, do those satellites really exist? Kalen's expression remained neutral. That information is classified, Scholar. But I will say this, whether they exist or not, every council member will now assume they do. Perception is its own reality. Thendara's colors sparkled with what might have been laughter. Oh, I like you humans. You're going to make the next 1,000 years very interesting. As Kalen walked through the corridors of Axis Prime toward his ship, he felt the weight of what he'd accomplished, and what lay ahead. Lieutenant Chen met him at the docking bay, her face a mixture of relief and awe. Sir, did you really just reorganize galactic civilization? No, Kalen said, boarding the Meridian's edge. I just reminded them that it needed reorganizing. The hard part comes next. The ship lifted off, breaking orbit from Axis Prime. Through the observation window, Kalen watched the Dyson ring recede into the distance. Somewhere on that structure, 17 species were arguing about the future. And for the first time in 12,000 years, humanity had a seat at that table. Not as supplicants. Not as probationary members waiting for acceptance. As equals. Kalen Vross allowed himself to laugh then, a genuine relieved sound that echoed through the empty bridge. It wasn't the laugh of triumph or mockery, but of someone who'd carried an impossible burden and somehow survived to tell the tale. The galaxy would never be the same. And somehow that was exactly what it needed.